Hi, and thank you for being here. This is Maria Mandarino. Today we're going to be talking about Enneagram 6. It's going to wrap up the past 8 episodes. Today's going to be the 9th, and just giving you a kind of overview about the Enneagram types. Before we jump into that, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in this information, it's the best way to get updates on other things that we have coming up, my courses, and just general information that I'll be sharing here on the channel. Coming up in the next couple of weeks or so, we're going to have, I'm going to be bringing in a guest, a colleague of mine, a friend and colleague, Julie Jacobs, who will be with us for the next 9 episodes after this one, to talk about your Enneagram type and dealing with narcissists. So it's been a kind of a hot topic out there, and wanted to bring someone on. Julie is a counselor, so she can speak to that side of the topic, where I really feel like I would be out of my lane as an acupuncturist and as a spiritual director. I think bringing in a counselor to speak to the specifics of that condition would be really helpful. And then we're going to be bringing in the Enneagram types and how each type responds differently, and where you lose your energy in your Enneagram type and where you can access greater energy in dealing with somebody that has those narcissistic traits going on. So that's going to be coming up. So if you're interested in that, remember to click subscribe. You'll be notified of that. My course on the Enneagram is going to be coming up hopefully later this summer. So that'll be announced here as well. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in the information, you appreciate the information, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a like on the video today. Remember to comment. All that helps to raise the algorithm. And please share the information with people that you think would benefit from it. So some simple housekeeping there that I wanted to mention. Also, if you're interested in working with me to discover your Enneagram type, I do that work professionally. I'm certified in that work. So just reach out. My website is mariamandarino.com. You'll find more information about me there as a spiritual director, Enneagram professional. I also work with the Bach flower remedies. I don't talk about that much here, but I am a certified Bach flower practitioner. So working on the emotional, spiritual level with flower essences, that's something else that I specialize in. And as some of you know, I am also a licensed acupuncturist in the state of Arizona, and board certified. So that's all part of who I am. You'll find out more about that on my website. But if you're specifically interested in working with me online in spiritual direction, or to pursue the Enneagram and how that unfolds in your life, you can complete one of the forms on my website. You can sign up for a free discovery call at the website. The only thing I do ask you to keep in mind is I'm having some problems right now with my scheduling system. So if you do sign up for a free discovery call, I would love for you to do that, but just allow yourself at least 48 hours to complete the forms before the session, because the scheduling software that I have right now is cutting people out. I am actively working on changing my software starting next week. So hopefully I'll have that in order shortly once I get that transition done. So if you're interested in that, like I said, just allow yourself 48 hours before the appointment that you schedule so you can get your form into me. And that will be helpful when we meet. So I am available for that work, for typing, spiritual direction. Feel free to reach out. So Enneagram Type 6, it is located in the head center, along with Type 5 and Type 7. If you need a brush up on those types, go back and check the videos. We've covered those. Type 6 is known as the Loyal Skeptic or the Loyalist, also the trustworthy person. They put a high value on others being trustworthy as well as themselves being trustworthy. So Loyal Skeptic, the Loyalist, and the trustworthy person. They place a high priority on safety for themselves and the people around them, whether that is their circle at work or their circle at home, their family, their circle of friends. Safety for themselves and the tribe are a high priority for Type 6. So the focus of Type 6, because they are the loyal skeptic, and they can be a suspicious kind of skeptical kind of personality, they kind of think about worst case scenarios sometimes. So they're thinking about the things that can go wrong, their focus of attention, their energy. Part of that is going toward what might go wrong out there, which is related to their assessment of potential for danger. That's another one of their focal points, is what might be dangerous. Another area of focus for them is on being prepared, because if you're prepared, then if something goes wrong, you can handle it, right? So it's all, you can kind of see how it's all braiding together with the 6. They also tend to be the person in the room or in the situation who scan for danger. All right, so they're concerned about the potential for danger, but it's like they've got that satellite dish spinning, that invisible satellite dish, where they are scanning, assessing, discerning where the danger might be, so that they can then be prepared, right? And they are planners, and the planning for 6 has to do with planning to be safe, planning to be secure. That can relate to physical safety, as well as even things like financial safety. Okay. And then the 6 has a unique distinction within the type. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but in my course we do, beyond my online course, we talk about facing or avoiding fear. And there's two types of Enneagram 6s that come out of that. One is the counterphobic 6. They're the ones that face the fear. The phobic 6 is the one that avoids the fear. So sometimes a counterphobic 6 that's doing the facing and taking it on before it takes you on, so to speak, they can almost look a little like an 8. They look kind of aggressive sometimes. So it can be a little tricky with the 6, because we tend to think of 6 as fearful, but sometimes fear, and if you think of it as, I have a little dog, and she's very fearful, and my spiritual director some time ago asked me what type I thought she was, and I didn't even know animals had types. And his answer to me was, well, she has a soul, so she has a type. So I've really looked at her, and I'm considering that she may be a 6, because she is very fearful, she is very anxious, but she can also be quite feisty. And if she sees a dog coming at her on a leash, she has what we call leash aggression. She's fine if she's loose, but if she's on a leash and there's a dog anywhere near her, she's a little 11-pounder. She's a little lap dog, but she will turn into one of the most aggressive creatures I've ever seen. So 6s can do that, and that's that counterphobic energy that they'll bring, where they're like, I'll hurt you before you hurt me kind of energy. But under that is fear. So that's the thing you have to consider, is like, what's their motivation for being aggressive, what's their motivation for being counterphobic? It's because they're afraid. Okay. So their motivation is to make sure that they and those around them who they love and need to have around them, to make sure that they are safe and that they are secure. That's the priority of the 6. It's all about those things, safety and security. So if you're ever not sure, think of my little dog being aggressive, but her scanning the room is always to make sure she's safe. If there's anything new in the room, she'll let you know if she's not comfortable with it. And again, she's in that counterphobic stance, but the motivation is always the same with the 6. It's about safety. It's about security. If I don't feel safe, if I don't feel secure, I'm going to have a struggle, whatever that struggle looks like. The interesting thing about type 6, when we were doing our training, we were told if somebody kind of rides the fence, they kind of think they're a 6, they go through all of the interviewing, and somebody says, what type do you think you are? And they'll, well, I think I'm a 6. Most other people will say, well, I'm a 1, or I'm a 9, or I'm a 2. But it's the 6 that'll waver the longest out of all the types in the interviewing process. If they're not really sure, that's coming from their suspicion and their desire to make sure that this is safe, that this is a good place to land, that this is good information for them, that's not going to take them down a garden path that might make them unsafe, right? They want to make sure they're really a 6. So they'll kind of like, I'm not sure, I think I might be a 6. That's almost confirmation a lot of the times that somebody does lead with 6. So the higher expression of our type sixes, all right, these are the people that are in balance and in harmony with their type. They will be trustworthy. They're the old reliables in your life, okay? Loyal and good friends. You can count on the six to, they're the people that you might not talk to for a couple of years, but when you do and you need them, man, they show up, right? So that's that loyalist, right? Loyal, good friends. They're intelligent people. They're also witty. They're also fair. And that gets back to partly being loyal. That gets back to being safe and secure. If we're fair about things, if we portion things out properly, right, it's going to be balanced and good for everyone, which means everyone gets to stay safe. So they're fair people. They're inquisitive. They're inquisitive because they want to figure out what the plan is. Because again, planning will keep you safe and secure. So they're inquisitive people. They are faithful and devoted. We say the journey of type 6 is to have faith, and that's because of the questioning. So they have that that underlying desire to ask, to be inquisitive, to make sure that this is a safe choice, a safe decision, a safe situation. So all that questioning can mean that you're a little separated from God, from your divinity. So the journey of the 6 is to develop and cultivate that faith, to be back in union with God. And even though you have questions, even though you have fears, because again, 6 is on that fearful side, that skeptical side, which has to do with fear. It brings us back to faith. And the highest regard of the 6, it's about being faithful, faithful and devoted. They are all vigilant. They're also vigilant and unwavering. They're the steady people that steer the ship. If you are on a group project, a difficult group project, or a family situation with a 6, you can count on them to consider the needs of all, for that whole unit to be safe. If you matter to that 6, they're going to make sure everybody that matters to them is safe. So vigilant and unwavering, for themselves, but also for those they love. They are inquisitive. Again, that gets back to that questioning. Let's make sure we're safe. So they're curious people. They are fantastic problem solvers. And that gets back to kind of planning and figuring it out and strategies. 6s are big on strategies. So they're great problem solvers. I would say the best in all the 9 types. Their motivation is to keep everyone safe, and so they are protective. We think of the 8 as the protector, but 6s are protective in that their goal is to keep everyone close to them safe, and that will keep them safe, right? Because if your tribe is safe, you're safe. Everybody's got everybody's back, kind of thing. That's very 6-ish. They are intuitive, along with type 5s. I would say type 5 and type 6 are the most intuitive in the Enneagram. If you have a 6 with a 5 wing or a 5 with a 6 wing, it's almost going to cube that energy, so to speak. 6s, when they're balanced in their higher expression, they can be instrumental team members. And it's because they're there for the team. They're gonna look out for themselves with the team. So if you're on their team, they've got you. That's in their higher expression. And again, it's about keeping everyone safe, and their tendency to plan and anticipate things will help them to see the pitfalls, which means everybody gets to succeed that much easier, because those things are being considered and anticipated by the healthy 6. The healthy 6 is independent and self-reliant, and they absolutely will never quit on the group. And that's the loyalist, right? So they're in it. If you got a healthy 6 that's in it, they're in it to the end. Same holds true in relationships with a 6. The lower expression of 6, this is the person that loses or forgets their faith. This is the person that thinks they're dropped here without without any spiritual resources, without any spiritual foundation. They've got to do it all because they lose sight of their divinity, their connection to God. So they're doubting and skeptical. And so this starts to mean they're doubting and skeptical of themselves. They second guess themselves all the time. That's the 6 that can't land on being a 6. So that's the skepticism there. So skeptical of themselves, skeptical of others. And the toughest thing to see in the 6 that's disconnected is they're skeptical of God. So there's a real separation. And that just kind of divides them further, and they almost can't get themselves back without some good work. Lower expression of 6 is they get lost in the questions. They just keep, questioning is one thing, being inquisitive, being curious is one thing. That's kind of the higher expression. Lower expression is just getting trapped in the questions and never moving forward because you just keep asking questions. The 6 in their lower expression has a highly triggered inner alarm system. They're prone to panic. It's that disaster thinking. They get caught up in the what's not what's going to go wrong, but it's kind of like not if it'll go wrong, but when it goes wrong. It's that kind of an energy. It's like they are planning for disaster. They're not just planning, because a healthy 6 will plan for success. An unhealthy 6 will plan for the disasters. So it's that highly triggered alarm system, and that's where it's coming from. It's all, the sky's going to fall down. It's not if, it's when. So their alarm system can trip into panic pretty quickly. That lack of faith with the unhealthy 6 gets them into figuring it out mode. And you'll hear them say, I've got to figure it out. I'll let you know when I figure it out. And that figuring it out, or that need to figure it out, is an indication that they have separated from their faith. They have forgotten their faith. They have forgotten the journey of the type 6, which again, if I want you to remember one thing about 6, I think it's that the journey of type 6 is faith. And when they get tripped up in figuring it out, they've separated from that journey. Doubt allows them to not decide because they're so busy doubting and questioning that they never get to the decision. So that can look like analysis paralysis, and it can just look like inaction and stagnation. So, but again, the root of that, because we see other types do that, right? We see 9 get caught up in non-doing, in sloth, laziness, right? This is different. This is doubt that causes them to not act. It's fear. It's fear, doubt, loss of faith, and just the questioning. So they can never reach a decision because they just keep asking. They just keep asking the questions. So no decision, no action. They can appear paranoid, again, because that's that fear, that anxiety, that free. 6 is known for like the free floating anxiety. In the Bach flower remedies that I also work with people, there is one flower essence. I always think of this flower essence when I think of the 6. There are 2 essences for fear. One, and we're getting a little off topic, but not really. There's one for fear of known things. So like if it's spiders or thunderstorms, that's mimulus. That's for fear of something I can point to, I can describe it, I can tell you exactly what it is that I am afraid of. And then there's this other anxiety of I wake up in the morning and I don't know what it is, but everything scares me. And I can't name it, but it's all around me. And that flower essence is aspen. And if you think of the aspen trees, I had the great privilege to live in 5 years in Colorado, which is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And I was surrounded by aspen trees where I lived. And the aspen tree, even if the breeze isn't really blowing, you will hear the aspen leaves quake. And that's what aspen treats in the Bach flower system. It treats that fear. That free-floating fear that we can't point to. It's not a fear of spiders. It's not a fear of thunderstorms. It's just like I wake up and I'm afraid of life. And they're always trembling. They're always quaking. So that's the 6. 6 is very much like that energy. It's this free-floating anxiety. And it can, when the scale tips in one direction, too far in one direction, it can look like paranoia. Kind of a corollary to that, an unhealthy 6 will not trust the motives of others. They don't feel safe around other people. They're always questioning the motives of the other person. And that's because fear and danger, again, like those shaking aspen leaves, the fear and the danger is everywhere for an unhealthy 6. Every place you look holds potential for danger. I think of the robot in Lost in Space, Danger, Will Robinson, danger. It's kind of like that's what runs in the back of the mind of an unhealthy 6. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. The 6 will also, the unhealthy 6 will struggle with authority. The counterphobic 6 is the one that has the bigger problem with this, because if they don't feel that they can trust whoever is in power, they're going to challenge it. That's where they can look like that 8. So, you know, when it comes down to that, you have to start asking some really specific questions of the 6 to make sure that that's what's going on and that's what their motivation is. If authority makes them feel untrustworthy, that the authority, if they feel they cannot trust the authority, that's more of a 6 issue, that trustworthy thing, because that's one of the most important things for them, to give their trust and to have yours. In their lower expression, a 6 can look sullen and suspicious. And again, they present as anxious and hyper-vigilant. So the healthy 6 is vigilant, right? They're kind of on everything. The hyper-vigilant 6 is the unhealthy one, where they overdo the vigilance and they're on guard, anticipating anything that could come at them. So you could have a tiger coming at you, or you could have a little kitten. The hypervigilant person only sees the tiger, even if it is a kitten. So that's the unhealthy 6. The thing that type 6 fears more than death, I would say that is not being unprepared in the face of danger. Let's say they would put that high up there as something that would scare them as much as death. The somatic view of the 6, they have highly reactive nervous systems. And again, that gets back to that potential to have that free-floating anxiety. So their nervous systems are very sensitive. Their nervous systems are very reactive. Okay. And I even, I was mentioning my little dog before, she's that way as well. Highly overreactive to stimuli. Overly sensitive to things. So when their nervous system gets tripped like that, the other thing is the adrenaline just keeps pouring out and you can't reel them back in for a little bit of a while, because there's actually a physiological thing that happens there. So it takes a while for that adrenaline to be balanced out and for them to feel grounded and safe again. So their nervous system's very reactive, very sensitive people. The other part of the somatic view of the 6 is they are easily triggered. If a stressor comes about that especially makes them feel insecure, unsafe, it's triggering for them. Those can be easy triggers for them. And again, it's going to affect the nervous system for them. That fear, the next part of it is the fascial system, the connective tissue has a response to that, and it tightens up. We don't necessarily feel that immediately, and we do feel it. But when you consider that fascial system, now I'm speaking to you as an acupuncturist and a myofascial release specialist, that fascial system, when it grips down, has up to 2,000 pounds of tensile strength. So when you have that much force on your nerves, on your blood vessels, right, that's going to affect how your organs are functioning. It's going to affect pain. It's going to affect things like if you have fibromyalgia, it's going to be trigger events like that. It's going to affect your cognitive ability. It's going to affect your blood flow to the brain. Whatever that fascial system is gripping down on, whatever triggered that type 6 into hypervigilance. And this happens to all of us. It's not unique to 6, but 6 takes it to a whole other level because they're so sensitive. The nervous systems are so sensitive. So that fear then is appreciated or responded to by the fascial system. And then we have this physiological effect that is far reaching. It's like at this point, all the organ, it's not just fascial is what I'm saying. All the organ systems become involved, okay? From the heart to the liver, to the stomach, to the brain, all of it, okay? Their diaphragm and their throat will become active. So they kind of function from here up. Of course, they head type, so there's all the energy happening in their minds, but also their breathing, their diaphragm, and their throat, their ability to speak, what makes them scared, can become an issue for the 6. And we see it affect their speech, and we see it affect their breathing. So that's the somatic view of that. And again, when it comes to somatics, we're holistic, right? So it's not just like one body part engages. This happens to all these responses happen to all of us, but we want to look at the reasons why they're happening and what else is going on, what else the person is experiencing or appreciating. And then we put it together with the somatics, and then we can bring the body into it when we do the work in spiritual direction. When we do the Enneagram work, we can start addressing how this is affecting your body, how this is affecting your organs, how this is affecting your cells. I mean, because down to the cellular level, these triggers, we pay a price for them. We absolutely pay a physiological price for them. So this is part of the work that we do together when people work with me. So it was a little bit of an aside, but I hope that was useful. Some good advice for those of you who lead with type 6. Be aware of how your overthinking can dampen the mood of those around you. So when stuff is happening that scares us or makes us anxious, those are real, okay? But then we have the people around us who we love and who love us and who are hearing, what are we going to do when that goes wrong? That might go wrong. We shouldn't do that. What if this happens, right? So you kind of get to be a little bit of a drag. And not that experience is wrong. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's valid. What you feel is absolutely valid. But that's where the opportunity for the work is, right? That's where the growth happens. So when we realize I'm feeling this, it's horrible. It's actually physiological. My anxiety is affecting my organs. It's affecting the ability of my mind to focus the way it normally does. But it's also affecting the mood in the room and how others feel about, all we do is talk about gloom and doom. People going to have an experience around that. So just be aware of how others are perceiving, be aware of how you're perceiving your experience, because that's first, but also be aware of how it's affecting the people in the room and the people that love you. Instead of focusing on the worst case scenario, try, and this is practice, okay? All of this is practice. It's not like it's a one-time fix. We say in Qigong, it's constant correction. So instead of what's the worst case scenario, how about what's the best case scenario? Because either is true, right? So try reframing things instead of worrying about the worst case scenario. What are we going to do in the worst case scenario? Well, what does the best case scenario look like? Because you got as much of a shot at that as anything. And when we take that journey toward faith as a 6, looking at the best case scenario is knowing that you're not in this alone, and this is not a random universe, and that we have a part in the dance, right? And part of that dance is knowing that we're not here alone and that we are loved. So best case scenario, start asking yourself. Try to explore that. The 6 above all, I mean, I think everybody on the planet should know what mindfulness meditation is and that they should be working on that and practicing mindfulness. But the 6 really can benefit from it probably more than any other type. So learn mindfulness meditation, bring awareness to what it feels like to have decreased tension in your body. how your mind feels, how much energy you have after that kind of a practice, and then realize how much energy you expend in your fears. I make that sound really easy. It's not. It is a lifelong practice. It's a lifelong practice for me, and I've been doing mindfulness meditation for almost 30 years. I will tell you, if you are interested in learning more about mindfulness meditation, the guru on that is Jon Kabat-Zinn. It's Jon Kabat, Kabat -Zinn, Zinn. He wrote a wonderful book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. Book's probably at least 30 years old. I came upon it. It's how I came to mindfulness meditation. Very, very simple to do. The hard part is rinse and repeat. Okay, so if you haven't come upon Jon Kabat-Zinn's work and you want to learn mindfulness and you're a type 6 that's wanting to work on yourself, I highly recommend that book. Wherever You Go, There You Are, Jon Kabat-Zinn. So if you are not a 6 yourself, but you suspect you have a type 6 in your life, something that can be helpful is listening past their chatter. Because sometimes the 6 can be chatty. Again, they're head types, so they want to think, they want to figure it out. Sometimes they do the figuring out loud. So if you have a 6 in your life that's a chatterbox like that, and you notice that they're not just chattering, they're really talking out loud to you as a sounding board so they can figure it out. It takes some skill to notice that, but if you do notice it, just kind of step back and just assess what it is. Just kind of see it for what it is and understand that the chatter is really their fear being expressed. And they probably consider you relatively safe to show you that. Because I don't think they're doing it on purpose. It's something they innately do, and I don't think they would do it around anybody that scares them. So in a way, it's a compliment, but see it for what it is. See it for the fear that it is. Understand that their delay and indecision are indicators of their fear and their loss of faith, or their disconnection from a supreme being. Instead of frustrating, because it's real easy to frustrate with a low 6 who can't make a decision. But if you can appreciate that their indecision comes from their 6 nature, and they're in the low side of type, and they can't figure out what's going to keep them safe, and if they think they're making the wrong decision, or they're not sold on what they think is the right decision, they are just going to waver back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And instead of wanting to just scream at them, make up your mind and make a damn decision, that's not going to help them. So don't say that, but just appreciate and be sensitive and compassionate to the fact that they are really, really struggling with that decision. And it has to do with their loss of faith and their disconnection from their creator and their essence, because they're the same thing. If a type 6 is over controlling you, this is another pathology of 6 that we can see. Realize that what they're doing is not trying to control you so much as they are trying to create stability and safety. So for them, that's where the control, it's a version of planning gone off the rails. When they're over controlling, it's another example of how terribly scared they are. So just be aware of that if the 6 is trying to over control you. If they bring their worst case scenario conversations to you, if we do this, that might blow up in our face. So don't engage in the worst case. Don't take them further down the worst case scenario road. You may want to introduce the best case scenario. So if you lead with 7 and you always see the possibilities and the opportunities, that's going to be easy for you. But whatever type you lead with, just realize that worst case scenario conversations are going to keep them deeper in their low side. So work toward, kind of pulling them away from that worst case scenario type of mentality. Try to be reassuring to them. Make them feel safe. Have conversations that build them up. make them feel secure. And I think best case scenario possibilities would be good to introduce to a 6, because when they're that locked up, they're incapable of getting there. So that would be a good practice for you to take up with them. And really important for helping a 6 out and improving your relationship with a 6 is to be a consistent and trustworthy presence in their life, right? So they're all about loyalty. They are incredibly loyal. And really all they want from the rest of us is our loyalty. And then they feel safe. If they have that, they're incredibly, even though we associate fear with the 6, I think most of the 6s that I know, when they're in balance, they're incredibly strong people. They can really take on just about anything as long as they feel safe, secure, and that they know the people around them are trustworthy. If they feel that they can't trust you, it completely destabilizes who they are and destabilizes their relationships with people and their ability to be productive, frankly. So because they get stuck and then they don't do anything, they kind of get just paralyzed in the decisions. So that's a quick look at Enneagram Type 6. If you lead with 6 or have someone in your life who leads with 6, please drop a comment. We'd love to hear about your experiences, and helps other people learn and grow, and it helps grow the channel. So I really appreciate that. Also share the video with anybody that you think can benefit from the information. Remember again to subscribe to be kept informed of what we have coming up, because some good things coming up. And in the meantime, take care. Reach out if you're interested in professional Enneagram typing with me. I'll leave that information. Again, it's mariamandarino.com is the website. I'll put it in the show notes. If you already know your Enneagram type and you'd like to take a deeper dive without needing to do the typing, the Enneagram typing, I'm available for spiritual direction online as well. You can access that link in the show notes through the website. And that's all for today. Thank you again for being here. And next time we will be here with Julie Jacobs from Windhorse Counseling, and we'll be talking about the Enneagram and how they deal with narcissists. So I hope to see you then. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you next time.